This is my Game of Life final project, and to start off, this is supposed to be like text, but I wasn't able to work fonts on my computer for some reason, which is why it's like this. And also my cell size is, my max is an 80 because my computer couldn't handle more than 50, I guess. So for now, it's a 50 by 50 grid with the gutters hidden, so the actual workable grid is only 48 by 48. So these buttons right here are the commands to work Game of Life. This one is the play button, which means that it'll keep generating the next generation of cells into the grid. This one is the stop, which would basically stop playing this. Step is it would only go one generation each. Random, it places 50 random live cells on the grid. Clear is that it kills everything on the grid. Save grid, it saves the current grid pattern. Load grid, it loads the last saved grid. And then save pattern is that it saves a portion of the grid. And load pattern is it loads a pattern that you've saved onto the grid. And the save and load pattern will use these 9 boxes as like a save file for each of them. So you could have about 9 different patterns. So this is putting a cell alive on the grid. To kill it, you just have to click it again, and you could keep doing this however many times you want. This window will show the coordinates of where I'm clicking and also what commands I've done. So it helps me keep track of what I'm doing and helps with debugging. So to play the grid, just click this, and then just stop it. Just stop it. If I click on any of these, it'll stop playing whatever like is playing on the grid. So if I click like a cell on the grid, it'll stop playing it. So if I click next gen or step, it'll do that. If I click random, it'll do that. And if I click save grid, it'll do that. And then just to show you that it did save, I click load grid, it'll load it and it would stop playing. So to save a pattern, we have to click the top left of the pattern that you want to save and then drag it to the bottom right. So click this and it'll show here process save pattern. And the next step would be to click on this with the left clicker of the mouse and then drag it to the bottom and then release it at the bottom right corner of the pattern. The next step is to save it in one of these. So I'll save it in pattern 1. And here it see out what the pattern looks like as well as what the name of the pattern is. So, and this shows 2 coordinates because the first one is wherever I clicked on here, and then the second one is where I clicked on here. So it's not a big deal. To load a pattern, just click load pattern, and this one has 2 steps. You click on a cell on a grid and it'll tell you what cell. And you just click on one of the patterns here that you want to load. So for example, this. So the way the save and load pattern work is it doesn't save the living cells only. It saves like a square of your selection. So it'll include dead cells too, as you could see here when it's loaded and saved the pattern. So what it'll look like is basically if I loaded a pattern and it was this, you can see that it looks like a square border, and that's because that's just the way it saves it into the file. So there's a few things that I did to make sure that you don't have invalid inputs when you save and load a pattern, because that one has multiple events that you have to follow through to save it. So if I wanted to save a pattern, I have to drag it in the correct direction. So top left to bottom right. If I do it any other way, it won't let me. And if I go outside of the grid, it'll tell me it's not even in the grid. So to do this, I just drag it top left to the bottom right, and it'll stay here. And then I save it, where do I save it? I save it here, and it'll show here. There's also like another like save thing that I've done is that you have to click within this. So if you click anywhere, you can't do anything. I forgot to see out a statement. It'll tell you, but you just can't do anything except close the window. In any of the events that's after you click one of these, the only thing you'll be able to do is either do the save or the load process correctly, or you could close the window. So for this, I have to click somewhere within the grid and then save it. The same with my load pattern, you'd have to click on a cell within the grid. So here, if I click on the gutters or even outside or any of these, I can't do anything. So if I click on that, it'll tell me the point, and I'd have to click somewhere here. I also forget to see out a statement, but the same thing as save pattern, you'd have to click somewhere in here. See? So that's about it. The problems I had was trying to save a pattern. I didn't know I could store more than the array, and that really helped because I needed some information when it came to loading this, like the number of rows and columns that it has. And also when I had multiple events, every time there's a new event, you have to make sure that the user is still able to close the window. And when I first wrote it, I wasn't able to, so I had to keep that in mind for the other events that I was making. And also, I had to find a way to get out of each of the while statements for each of my events. So I did that by making a Boolean variable, and if I was successful in saving and loading, I would break out all of the while loops, and I would be able to click on one of these again. And that's about it for my game of life. Wow.